All this dope on me, think I'm a runner. With some big ass jeans, MC Hammer. You want smoke with the gang, we say Pixar. Big on bounce on.
Hello, my name is Max Flyman, and welcome to the second devlog of my game, Genocidal Dopamine. If you haven't seen the first part, go watch it now. Anyway, last episode I left off with a weapon system and a pistol. My number one agenda for this devlog was to implement GORE, and for the most part I did. However, there were so many issues doing this you wouldn't even know. Okay, so first things first, I need an enemy model. An enemy I came up with before was Skelica, a skeleton sort of thing that has a big ass bone it hits you with. So I made this thing, and it's alright for now. Anyway, after rigging it up, I had an idea for how I could chop off limbs from it. Basically, you can scale down bones on a rigged model, and it sort of looks like it got chopped off. I might change this later, but I think it looks alright for now. So after doing this, I made a particle effect that shot out of the blown off limbs. It worked fine, but it looked kind of ugly. I decided on just doing what I do best and ripping off and copied the blood trail effect. And shocker, it looked cool. Now for the issue that plagued me for weeks and is the primary reason for this video's delay. VFX collisions. Okay, I'm gonna try and explain this as simply as possible. First, let's explain depth buffers.
Colors get rendered to the frame buffer. It's essentially an image with the same dimensions as your screen, and a shader's job is to fill this buffer with color values. With this information alone, it's impossible to tell if we're about to draw over a pixel when we're not meant to. That's why we use a secondary buffer called the depth buffer. This is a second image which is the same size as the frame buffer, except it stores the distance between a pixel on an object and the camera. Well, it doesn't store this distance exactly, but this is a bit complicated.
So then, why does this concern us? Well, these depth buffers can be used for more than just basic rendering. For example, in my game, I render the gun on a secondary camera, an overlay camera. This overlay camera renders after the main one. It clears the depth buffer and renders the gun. What this does is it always renders the gun on top of everything else, preventing issues like the gun clipping through walls. This approach had worked fine until recently, when I wanted my blood to collide with the floor. Now, particles don't detect collisions like normal objects do for countless reasons. It would be resource heavy, there would be lots of lag, and it would have to run on the CPU, while particles stick to running only on the GPU. So the geniuses at Smart People Incorporated came up with the idea to detect particle collisions with the depth buffer using math and stuff. Now, here comes our issue. We are clearing the depth buffer. The only depth left is the weapon depth. I had tried so many methods to work around this. I tried to fiddle with settings, get just the main camera's depth using scripts, anything. This took weeks, and with no help from the Unity Discord, I finally found a solution. You see, you can render multiple main cameras at once in Unity as long as it's being rendered to what's called a render texture. Guess what else is a render texture? The depth buffer. I can render the depth to a render texture, then pass that into my VFX graph. I am so fucking happy I figured this out. It took me so long. There's barely any info on this stuff online, so I had like nothing to go off of. Whew. Anyway, now I had blood decals galore, and an enemy I can slide into and blow up. This is the end of this devlog. If you want to stay updated on the progress, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next devlog, where I do something, I don't know.